sit there right now. You are certainly welcome here at Unity of Savannah. We're going to invite you to take a minute to say hello to your neighbors. Especially if you see somebody that you don't know, use this time to say hello. I'm gonna want y'all to help me sing this one. The first line is, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Again, we are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. All right now. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Now we're going to join together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. All right. Now we're going to join together in peace. All right. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Dale Worley. Welcome to Unity of Savannah. We're a center for spiritual awakening where we honor and recognize God as life, love, and the ground of all being. And we celebrate God by what? Living fully, loving lavishly, and being all that we can be. And I'm so excited this morning because we have as our special guest singer our own diva, divinely inspired, vibrantly alive, Debbie Scott. And Debbie is giving you a little taste of what she's going to offer us on Wednesday night. We're having an evening with Debbie Scott on Wednesday at 6:30. It's a free concert. We will be taking the love offering, but everybody is welcome to come and enjoy an hour of all different kinds of music and a lot of fun. And everybody's encouraged to sing along and dance, right, Debbie? Yeah. And bring a friend. Bring a friend. We're all about connection and community. This is a really great time. I have this idea for an ambassador program, a buddy system. It's kind of like when you go in a 12-step program, you get a sponsor. I would really like it if we had a little group of folks here that were like buddies or mentors to new people. Because I know for myself, if I'm going to a new place where there's a bunch of people that I don't know, they may be having an event that I want to go to, but I might be nervous to go by myself. So I'm going to call on some of y'all that come all of the time to like go up to somebody that you don't really know that's new and say, hey, I'm going to see Debbie Wednesday. Why don't you come with me or meet me down there? You know, I would much more be willing to go somewhere if somebody invited me, gave me a little personal invitation, yes? What do y'all think? Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about today is connection. All about connection today. And we're having this really cool event today, the meet and greet event that our board put together. And it's going to be around, it'll start at 1:30, but we have some Indian food that was donated to us by Pakwan Indian cuisine. Anybody know Pakwan on Abercorn? Well, go and say thank you to them for giving us a meal. So anybody that is staying for the meet and greet event, we don't want you to be hungry. So we got some food for you today. So we're all about connecting, connection, knowing our oneness, lifting each other up, inspiring each other. And a wonderful way we do that is through our prayer chaplain program. Prayer chaplains, would you stand up? Our prayer chaplains are here to hold sacred space. They're everywhere. I'm surrounded by prayer chaplains. We are surrounded in prayer and love this morning. Can you feel it? Because their main job is to hold sacred space with us. Just feel that. Sacred space. And to listen lovingly to our prayer intentions, to pray from the heart, and to hold in confidence what is shared. So if you would like a prayer this morning, either of comfort or celebration, because they love praying those gratitude prayers, right? Yeah, they'll be available in the sanctuary after the service today. Thank you for your service. Please join me, if you will, in affirming our vision and mission statements. Our vision: centered in God's love, we inspire universal transformation, one heart at a time. And our mission: we are an inclusive spiritual community, serving others with love, joy, and truth. And this morning, we light our Christ candle to represent the divine idea of comfort.
Comfort. In extending comfort to others, I find peace. The 23rd Psalm affirms comfort through the darkest valley. At times, it may seem that only by finding myself in a dark valley am I able to appreciate the spiritual substance by which I am surrounded. Faith reminds me that comfort is a quality of spirit, not depending on conditions or circumstances in my life. This awareness aids me in being a channel of comfort and serenity for all as well. I do so by replacing drama and instant judgment with an energy of peace and love. At every opportunity, even though any seeming valleys, I find time to be still and know nothing can disturb the calm that I feel and the serenity that I share with others. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. That's Psalms 23:6. And if you will repeat the comfort that's on the board. In extending comfort to others, I find peace.
Our thoughts are prayers. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always here. And every thought becomes a prayer.
Thank you, Heavenly Mother, Father God. Thank you for answering each and every prayer that has been placed in this prayer box. Thank you for answering every prayer that remains behind in our hearts and minds. Thank you for going before us, making crooked places straight. Thank you for solving what we believe is the unsolvable. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for protecting us. Thank you for you. So it is, and we let it be. Amen.
Sweep over my soul. Come, precious Spirit, and sweep over my soul.
I invite you to take a deep breath and just relax into this moment. There is one presence in our lives and in the universe. And as we breathe and relax into this moment, we feel an awareness of this presence move over us from the top of our head to the tips of our toes. We are immersed in the presence of love, in the presence of the Lord, the great law of love and life that is moving in and through us now, in and through all of our affairs, making the crooked places straight, bringing all into harmony and alignment with the highest good. So just give yourself to that Spirit this morning. Let it wash over you and wash away any fear or doubt, any grief or pain, any ideas of sickness or lack are just swept away, washed away. And so that all that remains is the love and the power of God expressing in us, through us, and as us. Sweep over my soul.
Sweep over my soul. Sweep over my soul. Come, precious Spirit, sweep over my soul. Sweep over my
Right
soul.
here, right now.
Sweep over my soul.
Heal me and bless me.
Come,
Spirit.
precious Spirit.
Come now. Sweep over my soul.
My soul. Sweep over my soul. Sweep over my soul. Come, precious Spirit, sweep over my soul.
Come, precious Spirit.
Come, precious Spirit, sweep over my Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Surely the presence of love is in this place. For God is love, and God is everywhere present all the time. God is in this room, all around us, healing us and blessing us. Love is within our hearts and within our minds, helping us to release and let go of all that we're tired of carrying around. We let go of any struggle, strife, and we relax into this moment. Take a deep breath with me, please. Let's breathe directly into our heart space. Feel our hearts expand with the love of God, the power of God. Our heartbeat slows as we breathe deeply, easily, evenly. And we allow an awareness of the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom to sweep over us now. Sweeping away any idea that we're somehow separate or unconnected or apart. There is no apartness from God. God is everywhere, including within each one of us. And this love that is God is doing a mighty work within our hearts and minds now. Past hurts disappear. We release resentment, frustration. Any thoughts of lack or limitation are dissolved now by the power of this sweet Spirit as it sweeps over us now. As we become still, we know this presence as a force that is alive in our lives. I invite you to take another deep breath and feel the life of God within your body. Know that with every breath that we take, we are taking a drink from the fountain of life. And this fountain, this life is renewing, releasing, revitalizing every cell of our body. We have a release, a new lease on life. We are all connected. We are all part of all there is. And we know that now in this time of prayer. It feels so good to be together in prayer, to be together as one, to be together in love. And so let us rest now. Rest, recharge, re-energize. As we repent, we return to our source, the stillness within us. We express that now. We release it into the world as we rest in quietness, in stillness, in the silence.
Birds in the sky, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I feel so good. Woo! Fish in the sea, oh, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on a tree, you know how I feel. It's a new life, it's a new day, it's a new world for me. And I feel so good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. To sleep in peace when day is done, that's how I feel. And that old world is a new world and a bold world for me. A new world for me. Woo! I know, you gotta feel good singing this song. Sally, this for you. Stars, when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pines, you know how I feel. Yes, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new world, it's a new life for me. And I feel so good. I feel so good. Because you give love to me and I can give it back. That's where community comes in, and that makes me feel good. The peace I feel when I'm connected with you. I feel so good.
The divinely inspired, vibrantly alive, Miss Debbie Scott. Debbie Scott, feeling good, feeling good. Y'all feeling good? Man, that gets me fired up. Come on now. We got a whole hour of that this Wednesday. That's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. Bring a friend, she says. Bring a friend. That's a good idea. And then today we have our meet and greet after this service. Next Sunday after service, we're going to have a team meeting for our Spirit Fest festival. We do a festival now. This will be our third year in a row, and we got some ideas to make it even bigger than it was last year. We're thinking about using both parking lots this year instead of just one. So if you want to be in on the ground floor of making this happen, everybody is invited to come to the team meeting. next Sunday after church. The festival is the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, so it's the first Saturday in September. And then on July 22nd, 2 weeks from today, we're celebrating Kyle's licensed teacher accomplishment. Licensed Unity teacher. So I get the honor and the privilege of presenting Kyle with his certificate, and we'll do installation honoring ceremony for Kyle. We're going to have a potluck, and he's going to do a concert. And I've asked Debbie to come and sing again. The choir is going to sing. If you want to sing that day in the choir, just show up at 10 o'clock. It's that easy. Everybody is welcome. So all of these things that I'm telling you all about are ways to connect us together. That's the point of doing it. It's fun. We have a good time. We went, some of us, to Tybee Post Theater on Friday. There were 12 of us, and we saw a movie called Chasing Coral about the declining coral reefs, and we learned about Gray's Reef. If some of y'all know Michelle Riley, who works in our bookstore, and she's a regular person here. She works for Gray's Reef, and we learned about the foundation and the things that people are doing to protect the reef. We learned a lot of stuff, and it was kind of sad too, and we had fun too. And I feel every time I do something like that with people from the church, I feel a little bit more connected to everybody. Don't we need connection right now? You know, it's funny that we use our phones and our laptops and our iPads and our this and that and the other to connect with each other, but yet we can feel isolated sometimes. Just scroll, you know, to put mine down every now and then, because I need God with skin on every now and then. I need to look in somebody's eye and touch somebody and get a hug. So all of the stuff that we're doing here is about connecting each other. All of these events about learning to practice our principles at a deeper level, and one of our main principles is oneness, that we're all one, that we're all the same on the inside. You know, we have access to this divine intelligence within us. It's like we are these little computers and iPhones, and we're connected to this universal network of information that is the divine intelligence. You know, in our daily word today, it reminded us that at all times we're surrounded by the substance of God. And one of the ways that we describe God is principle or law. So we've always got that connection. We've always got this internet connection going on, and it never goes down. Sometimes we're unaware of it because we let life take over, and we let Peter. If you were in my Emma Curtis Hopkins class, you know what I'm talking about. We have this concept of 12 powers, that each person has at least 12 powers that are the ways that they express the Christ idea in the world. And each of these powers is represented by one of the 12 disciples. And Peter represents faith. And Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity, told us that faith represents our thinking faculty. Okay? So Peter, our thinking faculty, faith is who's talking to us at night while we're trying to go to sleep. Because you got to give Peter a job to do. You got to let the Christ, the I am, tell Peter what to do, or he'll do his own thing. You know, if you remember the story in the Bible where Peter was just professing his love and loyalty to Jesus. Oh, I just love you and follow you to the ends of the earth. And Jesus says, you know, before the sun rises, you're going to deny me 3 times. Oh, I would never do that. So we can take that story and relate it to how Peter, our thinking guy in here, operates. If we don't give him something to do, he's going to find something to do. And usually it's something we don't want him to do. Tell him like, oh, you really messed up today. You shouldn't have said that. You know, or thinking about tomorrow. Am I going to have enough time to do everything I need to do? No, probably not. You need to get up an hour. Blah, 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 right? So before we go to bed at night, we have to tell Peter, shh, be still, Peter. Be still and know that I am in charge. And this is my time with God. This is my time when I lay in bed at night before I go to sleep to access that inner wisdom within me. Because do you know if you ask a question before you go to bed, you'll get the answer in the morning. If you focus on the presence of God as you're going to sleep and hold the question in mind, this is how we access our subconscious. While you're asleep, your subconscious will go to work. Peter, because you're telling Peter what to do. Then you're giving him a job while you sleep. And then you wake up in the morning, you'll have the answer. So before I went to sleep last night, I said, God, I want to talk about connection. Give me a story. What's a good story that I can use in my talk tomorrow? And so have you ever had one of those things where you try something so hard that you're just getting in your own way? You know, this week was like that. It's like I'm just trying really hard. I want to be inspiring. This is our connection day. We're having our meet and greet event. I really want to say something about connection and boom, 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 you know. So I had to let it go. And I just said, God, you tell me. I'm going to put Peter to work while I go to sleep. So I woke up in the morning. And there it was. Talk about the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? The story in the Bible where it says that Jesus fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, right? So anytime I've heard that story in the Unity Church, it was about prosperity. They were teaching me a prosperity lesson. I said, what does this have to do with connection? God, trust me. Study it. Contemplate it. Sit with it. Think about it. Read about it. And so this morning I'm looking at that story in a whole different way. When you think about that story, what was it that Jesus did with the loaves and the fishes? Multiply. You hear that. When you talk about the story, it's like the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. Well, you know what? That story, this is one of those stories that's in the Gospels 4 times. And everyone, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So you think, okay, this is probably pretty important. They wanted us to hear this story. But in the versions I was reading this morning, the New Revised Standard Version and the New International Version, those translations are what I usually use, it doesn't use the word multiply. Not even once. It says Jesus took the loaves and the fishes and he blessed them. He blessed them. He looked up. He raised himself up in consciousness. He blessed them and then he broke them. He divided it. He divided it. Remember when you were a little kid, maybe you had a moon pie and you divide it with your friends because you wanted to share it with your friends. So there was my first clue. Oh, this is about sharing our good. Sharing our good. And I love the daily word today because it tells us that when we share our good, when we comfort other people, we get to experience peace as a byproduct of that. We talked about that a little bit last week, that happiness and success comes from being in love and being of service. Seek ye first the kingdom, the queendom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. So whenever we look at these Bible stories, I always like to look at what happened first, sometimes what happened after. So we see this story about 5,000 people that Jesus feeds with just a little bit of food. If you read the book before that, in all four of the stories, what it tells us is that the disciples had just come to Jesus to tell him that his cousin, John the Baptist, had been killed by Herod, the emperor of Rome. Yes? So he was pretty upset by this. And what a juicy story. Like, what a spicy story. This could be on HBO. This whole story about Herod is having a party, you know, his whole court is there, and he gets his stepdaughter, Salome, to do a special dance for everybody. And her mother was fooling around with Herod. She was married to a soldier, but she was messing around with the emperor, and John the Baptist was calling her out on it. Don't need to be doing this, is wrong, right? And so after Salome does her dance, Herod says, that was so awesome. I give you my word in front of all these people that I will grant whatever wish you want. And so Salome's mother says, tell him you want the head of John the Baptist. So that's what she says, and they cut his head off and put it on a platter. Like, this is right out of Game of Thrones, right? Ugh. Right? So that's the story that the disciples bring to Jesus right before he feeds all these folks. So he's grieving. This is his cousin. His mother, Mary, and his aunt Elizabeth were pregnant at the same time. And there are stories in the Bibles that one of the babies moved, the other one responded. Like they knew each other since they were in the womb. And now he's dead. He's been killed by the emperor. So you know Jesus is upset. They don't go into a lot of detail on it, but wouldn't you be? Right? So he decides to go off by himself somewhere. Well, people start following him. Like it says 5,000 men followed him. They didn't count the women and children, I guess. So there's no telling how many people were there. And I was thinking about this morning. I wonder how many people were on the planet during that period of time. You know, because today we have over 7 billion people on our planet. If you look at, you know, the ratio to the 5,000 to how many people were alive then, that was probably like how many people go to Joel Osteen's church on Sunday morning. I don't know, you know. Like a lot of people were coming to see Jesus, and they were hungry, they were thirsty, and they were sick, and they were poor. And it says that he felt compassion for them. Oh, there's my other clue. This is a story about compassion, connection, sharing, healing. When you look up the word compassion, when you look at the etymology of the word compassion, compassion, calm means with. Passion, the original meaning of passion was suffering. This is where we get the idea of the passion of the Christ. The story of Jesus dying on the cross and being resurrected. The passion of the Christ, compassion. It wasn't until around 1518 that the word passion began to mean like desire or being in love or having to have somebody. You ever had that feeling, ooh, I gotta have him. Ooh, I'm just in love, right? Cupid has got me. It's kind of like a burning, it's suffering. I'm suffering for love. I gotta have it, right? So compassion, with suffering, he was sympathetic, empathetic to the people. He knew that he was one with God and with everybody. I and the Father are one. He could feel their suffering. He was with them in this. And so he wanted to help them. He wanted to reach out. And I bet he wasn't thinking about his cousin too much right then, right? Just think about how he could help these people. So what did he do? He told stories. He offered them the word. He told them stories about what? The kingdom of heaven. His parables, almost all of them were about heaven or money. He was telling us how to live in the inner world and in the outer world all the time. So he goes through all of these parables, and he's teaching the people, this is what it's like to be in the heaven consciousness. And then the disciples come up to him because the day is about over, and he's been healing people too, it tells us. You know, he's been ministering to people. So the disciples come to him at the end of the day, and they say, it's getting dark, and there isn't any place to get food around here. I guess there's no Parker's or KFC around here, so they need to go into town and get them something to eat. And Jesus, you know what he tells them? You feed them. You do it. You know, there's a commission that he gives to the disciples at the end of his ministry when he sends them out 2 at a time. I kind of like to think he sent them out like husband and wife, partners, husbands and wives together, going out as a team to minister to people. He said, feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. Now, I don't think what he meant is that we should be sheeple, right? And blindly follow people. I think what he's saying there is that if you think about this idea, this scene, this pastoral scene of a shepherd or shepherdess with a flock of sheep, and the job of that person is to what? Take care of the sheep, to make sure they don't get eaten, and to make sure they have enough to eat. So here now, once again, we have this idea of feeding, of nourishment. So Jesus sees these people, these 5,000 people, and he has compassion for them. And he's vibrating with them. He's resonating with them. He wants to help them. And so he feeds them. He feeds them the word. And then it says it's getting late in the day and people are getting physically hungry. And the disciples say, we don't have enough food for everybody. What are we supposed to do? And he says, no, you do. Feed them. I want you to feed them. So we see in one of the stories, Philip and Andrew come up to him, and they're worried, and each of the disciples represents a different power that we have. So Andrew represents, license teachers, strength, and Philip represents power. Bam! That's right. Power and strength are coming to the I am presence and saying, what are we going to do? We don't have enough. Have you ever felt like that before? I don't have the power to do what I feel called to do. I don't have the strength. And Jesus says, let me show you how it's done. Right? In one of the stories, Andrew brings him a little boy who has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And I thought, well, that boy may not be so little if that's what he brought as his lunch, was 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. I'm like, wow. Okay, or maybe he brought some to share with the other people. You know, I would think if Jesus and his disciples were going on a trip out in the middle of nowhere, they would have probably brought something to eat with them. So I think the disciples might have been saying to Jesus, you know, we don't have enough. We have enough for ourselves. Like they were kind of like holding back, stingy, and it's like Jesus is like, no, feed them, and this is how you do it. So then he divided it. He blessed it. He gave thanks for it, and he shared it. I like to think that this was the first potluck. That the baskets went around, and everybody put in what they had and took out what they needed, and then there was enough so that everybody had something to eat. It's about connection and about sharing. You know, some of y'all know I used to work at Unity Village, and I tell a lot of stories about things that happened to me there because I was there for 5 years, and it had such an impact on my life and my spirituality. The energy of that place, anybody been to Unity Village? It is incredible. The prayer energy, somebody has been praying there like in silence, in the stillness, continuously for like 150 years without stopping. So you can feel this energy when you go on the grounds there. And so I got to work in the retreat department, and I learned that there's this place over by the old hotels that they called the amphitheater. And basically, it's just a little hill, a little rise with an indentation in the land, kind of like a natural bowl thing. And they used to have concerts there back in the day, back in the 40s, you know, when the Fillmores were alive and things were really hopping. You know, I think they had like a brass band, concert band, that kind of concert there. And everybody would come and they would bring their food and they would eat together. And so after I'd been there for about a year, they built a stage out there where the amphitheater was, and I got the bright idea, what if we started having concerts again? Just like back in the day. And we'll tell everybody that lives here, and maybe even some of the people were here back then, that we're going to get this going again. We're going to start having these summer concerts. Well, I learned a lot of lessons from doing that. And one of those is you don't really want to have a concert outdoors in the afternoon in the middle of summer in Missouri. We were playing one song and suddenly everything just quit in the middle because our equipment overheated. It was 106 degrees. My band, they were so awesome. They're up there sweating to death, playing away, and they're like, we're not doing this again. Like, don't ask me. No. And then the stage faced east. The sun goes down in the west, and everybody's up on the hill watching the band, and the sun's right in their face. So we learned a lot from doing that. One time I hired this band to play, and so I got to just kind of, you know, once everything was going, I just got to kind of enjoy it. And somebody had brought a couple pieces of plywood and laid them out. Bless you. And Rosemary Fillmore, the granddaughter of the Fillmores, was there, and she was dancing. She was jitterbugging out there on the plywood, and she was like, this is so great. This is just like it was back in the, you know. We're all having a good time, and my friend Lane was there, and Lane is the audio-visual guy at Unity Village. He's been there for a long time, and I'd never met his wife, Kim, before. And so she came, and their little girl, Haley, was there, and Kim was very quiet. She didn't say much at all, but just kind of out of the blue, she just gave me a sandwich. Like, that had such an impact on me. I still think about that today. It's like she was the sandwich lady. She had just made a bunch of sandwiches and brought them not only to feed her family, her husband and her daughter, but also to have some extra ones just to give out. You know, so she's like, hi, you want a sandwich? And I was like, yeah, thank you. And that had such an impact on me. When I think about her, I still think about that moment. That was so kind. That one little act. Somebody was telling me this morning, well, after the talk, well, maybe we should all just get together and make sandwiches and go downtown and hand them out to people. You know, why not? We can, right? It's what Jesus was doing that day. He was sharing what he had, what they had with other people. He knew that he was one. He knew that he was connected. He knew that whatever he did affected everybody. You know, there's that idea of the great web of life. We're all a strand on it, and whatever we do to one affects the whole. So whatever I do to Linda affects Rochelle. The secret, the key is whatever I do to me affects everything. You know, so am I loving myself? Am I taking care of myself? You know? Am I getting out of myself when I'm grieving or upset and trying to show love or comfort or compassion to another person? You know, what gets triggered in me when I'm in an uncomfortable situation? Is it Peter complaining about the situation, or is it the Christ, the I am, whose response is to give, to help, to pour out? You know, it's moving from the me, I don't have enough, we can't share this, Jesus, with everybody, because then what are we going to eat? It's moving from that limited consciousness to being grounded in this I am consciousness where we know there's enough for everybody. you know. And so instead of trying to multiply, we're dividing, we're sharing with each other. So I want to close today with a quote from Charles Fillmore. Charles and his wife Myrtle founded our unity movement back in the late 1800s. And Charles Fillmore wrote a book called The Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. If you don't have one, get one. You can look up anything in the Bible, all the names and places that are in the Bible are in this book, and it tells us the metaphysical meaning. So this morning, I learned that there's more than one meaning to this story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. It's not just about prosperity or the idea that we bless what we have and it increases. It's also got this deeper meaning that's beyond just kindergarten prosperity teachings of what's in it for me. The deeper meanings of connection, interconnectedness, and what happens when we share, when we divide. And so Charles says this about this story. We are related, both within consciousness and without, to all creation through the universal life principle. So let's look at that again. We're related inside and out to everything that there is by this life principle that connects us all. When we recognize our unity with one life, God, and with all life, creation, we are on the way to true exaltation, rulership, and abundant substance. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. So let's take that inside. Let's take that into prayer. I invite you as you breathe deeply into your heart and move into that I am consciousness one more time, to use the power of your imagination to see yourself as if you were there on that day. Crowds of people surrounding this Jesus, expressing the I am consciousness, the consciousness of enoughness, the consciousness of connection, the consciousness of knowing the truth of what happens when we share our good, when we open ourselves to be greater than we think we can be. So we give thanks this morning knowing that we are connected heart to heart and mind to mind, that we are all part of the great all there is, that we're all blessed and we are a blessing, and that whatever is going on in our life today, that presence, that love, that power, that universal life principle, that substance of God is always with us, always within us, always without, around us all the time. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is.
I got all my sisters with me and my brothers too. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I don't tell no lie. Oh, all of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me speak for the record. We're giving love and a family does. Sing it all. We are family. Hey, hey, hey. I got all my family with me. Yeah, we are family. Get up everybody and sing. Let's do that again. Here we go. We are family. I got all my brothers with me and my sisters too. We are family. of this world's delights. Hopes we have for the future and our goals inside. No, we won't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule, you know it. Have faith in you and the things you do, and you won't go wrong. Oh no, this is a family jewel, yeah. We are family, hey, hey, hey. I got all my family with me, yeah. Alright, we are family. Get up everybody, let's break it down here on little Nate on bass. Oh, Nate, feels good. Let's do it again. Oh, yeah. We got Rochelle on the team, picking it up. Woo! About a hand for the band. Here we go. We are family. Hey, hey, hey. I got all my family with me and my brothers and sisters. We are family. Get up everybody and sing one more time. Let's do it. We are family. I got all my sisters with me and my brothers too. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. Woo! That was fun, y'all. Thank you.
All right, Debbie Scott and the Spirit I Am Band. Wow. We have 5 basic principles that we teach and practice here at Unity. And I invite you, if you would, to declare our first principle together. We are family.
Thank you very much.
That's all we need to know, right? We are one human family. Let's try it from memory. Let's see if we know it. There is only one power, one presence in my life and in the universe, God. Our second principle, we are the Christ of God in expression. We call our third principle the law of mind action, which is thought plus feeling equals outcome. Our fourth principle reminds us what? There is power in affirmative prayer and meditation. And number 5, what? We must live the truth we know. Give yourself a hand on that. Bam! So one way that we practice spiritual law here, the affirmation of the universal life principle, the substance that is unlimited, that is within us and around us all the time, we recognize that by giving back to where we're spiritually fed. So if you feel spiritually fed by your connection to this spiritual community, and you have brought a gift, the tithe, the donation, a love offering with you this morning, I invite you to prepare that now, to take it out, while I invite Miss Evelyn, one of our licensed teachers, Rev Ev, to come forward and to bless our offering and lead us in our prosperity affirmation.
As you take your love offering and place it in your left hand, before you cover it with your right, bless it. Bless the abundance that has been given to you by your God, your Spirit. And then seal that abundance with your right hand. And as you hold your love offering in your hand, send it out into the ethers, into the universe, to be blessed and to return to you 1,000-fold. And for that, we give thanks for that order. Let us say our offertory blessing together. Divine love
as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful.
God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need.
This blessing, come on now. Yeah. Come on now. Give it up, Rowena. Let's go on and welcome our children.
Still light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it
So I want you to join with me in seeing so many kids on this stage right now. And they're all hopping up and down and pulling each other's hair. And Miss Iris is like, quit that. And they're just beautiful, divine essence of light and love. Yes, and we say, what do we say? Loves you and accepts you just the way you are. And I love you and accept you just the way you are. I see the Christ in you. And now let us receive a blessing from our children. Come on now. Amen. Thank you. Did you feel it? We're all connected. It doesn't matter whether we're physically together or not. I'm connected with you guys all the time. I take you with me everywhere that I go. Yes? Yeah. You're a rock and an anchor for me. Do you know that? This is where I get my spiritual food. You know, I go out sometimes, I talk at other churches, I play music. I'm going to be at Unity Village to do a Fillmore Festival in August. I'm so blessed that I got to ask to come back and do a retreat. But I always come home. I always come back to you. This is where I live. This is where my heart is. I am where my heart feels at home. Say that with me. I am where my heart feels at home. So I hope you'll join us for our meet and greet so we can deepen that connection a little bit. We got some great Indian food that Pac One Restaurant is donated to us. Praise the Lord. God is good all the time. Go see our friends at Pac One and have some of their buffet and tell them thank you for providing our food today. And don't forget that we're going to do our Spirit Fest meeting next week. We got Debbie's concert, and we got Kyle's ordination. Come on now. Let's all stand up and join in our closing song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.